Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today I want to talk about the Mario Kart 8 Booster Pass, where we are, where we're going forward, and my overall thoughts on what we've had so far. So, obviously, it was a shock when this was originally announced to get, 48 new tracks, which is nuts. Pretty much mostly remastered. There are a couple of original tracks that have been brought into this, which is cool. But we are now, Wave 1, Wave 2 and Wave 3 are over. I have it all listed in front of me, and I want to talk about what we've gotten so far and our expectations for the rest of this, and also my thoughts. So let's start off. We had Wave 1. Now Wave 1 was very it felt like there was a lot of more of the basic tracks. It felt like it was like, we're starting from like the Mushroom Cup. I know it's called like the Golden Mushroom Cup or something, but we were getting some of the more basic tracks, and this is also the inclusion of when we first started seeing the tour tracks be brought over as well. So what do we get? We had Paris Promenade, we had Toad Circuit, Choco Mountain, and Coconut Mall for the first cup. Not awful, I would say half of that is good, the other half is eh. Paris Promenade is an okay track. Compared to Tokyo Blur, it's significantly better. But Paris Promenade, okay track. Toad Circuit, very okay track. I think I would have swapped these around. Paris Promenade's a little more interesting. Toad Circuit is very much your beginner track. We had Choco Mountain, which does feel very unrecognizable in some aspects, but still fun to play. And then Coconut Mall, which they went on to fix later on and have the cars spin and all this. So, a really strong end. But, simpler tracks, nothing too crazy. And then the second part of that was Tokyo Blur, Shroom Ridge, Sky Garden, Ninja Hideaway. Tokyo Blur, in my opinion, so far is the absolute worst track in these Booster Pass. It's so boring. Followed up by Shroom Ridge, which is really fun because it's a lot of drifting. Sky Garden's very much okay. And then we have Ninja Hideaway, which is possibly an argument for the best track added in the Booster Pass so far. So not the strongest start, but like at least an indication of what we're getting. We're getting tracks from all over the place. Looks like we're getting a lot of stuff from Tour, and that wasn't a bad start. Like I don't mind the Tour tracks being included, but when you've got to Wave 3, and we'll get to this, where you've had so many city tracks now, it does start to grate. After that, we got Wave 2, and we started off with New York Minute, Mario Circuit 3, Calamari Desert, Waluigi Pinball. Again, I would say 3 of the 4 tracks there I actually do like. New York Minute I do like. Mario Circuit 3 is my favourite in this. Oh, sorry, Waluigi Pinball and then Mario Circuit. Calamari Desert I don't like as a track. I find it very boring, but I like what they did with it. I think this is probably the best version of it. And obviously Waluigi Pinball, and some people are going to say, oh, Waluigi Pinball's overhyped, all this sort of stuff, but it is at least an interesting track. It's a fun track. There's a lot of good drifting on it. I would say so far that wave, New York Minute is pretty decent as well. The only downside is that the vehicles on New York Minute don't move, which is weird because later on when we get Berlin byways, the vehicles do move. But that first half was pretty strong, and say what you want about Mario Circuit 3, I like that track. I sometimes like the faster tracks where you can kind of make your own shortcuts. People went on and were like, oh, this track's not very good, it's not that exciting, but just like the Game Boy Advance tracks like Snowland that we got, and also like Boo Lake that we got, those tracks are some of my favourite because they're like tight turns and they're very, very like everyone's clustered together. They're not these crazy tracks, and I like them being sprinkled in. So for me, the first part of Wave 2 really strong, and then followed up by Sydney Sprint, Snowland, Mushroom Gorge, Sky High Sunday. Starts off really strong. Sydney Sprint is still, I think, the best tour track that we've had so far. Snowland, very, very fun, short track. Mushroom Gorge, I don't mind, never been a big fan of it. And then Sky High Sunday was a new track, and I'll be honest, I think it's really boring. It's just a loop, nothing really happens. It looks somewhat pretty, but you also see the graphics on that track look real bad. I don't know if they've gone back and touched it up or not since. But I would say Wave 2 pretty strong. There's a lot of good tracks in that. And then Wave 3 comes along, we've got London Loop, Boo Lake, Alpine Pass / Rock Mountain if you're in America, Maple Treeway. London Loop and with Berlin Byways, they kind of blur into one for me. Neither of those tracks are particularly strong. I don't dislike them, but this is where I'm starting to see that fatigue from Tour. Boo Lake I really liked. Alpine Pass I don't really care for, it's not that interesting. Maple Treeway, very solid track. And then Berlin Byways, Peach Gardens, Merry Mountain, Rainbow Road 3DS. Unfortunately, that second lot of tracks, Rainbow Road's the only one I really enjoyed. I would say that Berlin Byways is decent. Peach Gardens, Merry Mountains, kind of boring, not gonna lie. So there's a good variety of tracks in it, despite my own personal feelings on which ones I like and which ones I don't. There is a good mix in here. And rather than sit here and go back and like, why these things are bad or what, we're getting tracks from all the different games. Game Boy Advance, SNES, N64, GameCube, all this sort of stuff. Now we know going forward we're going to have 24 more tracks. Now, it kind of sucks that we know at least, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those tracks are going to be tour tracks, not including the original ones, air quotes, that will also probably be there. But let's say, you know, we've got there's 6 tracks that are going to be tour. Because they're going to be things like the Holland, I think it's Holland, that level. There's a Singapore one, I think. There's still plenty they can bring over. And I just, at this point, I think they just need to cool it, because if I had to give feedback for this, is that you've tried to bring over these tracks, and a lot of these probably are ported from tour, and you've ruined some of the city tracks that existed that were original tracks in Mario Kart, because no one's going to want to play those per se, which will come out in a bit, because I've got some suggestions of tracks I would like to see going forward. But that's the biggest issue right now. It doesn't matter if I like a track or not, because we're getting a variety of stuff, like I said, from the different consoles, and that's totally cool. And you know, everyone's going to have their own favourites. Like, would I have brought back Peach Gardens over something like Delfino Plaza? Probably not. But you know, I know a lot of these tracks are probably already in tour. Now, I've got a list of tracks here in front of me from each game. Now, I haven't looked at what's in tour. I don't really care, and I know most of that stuff they're going to port is going to be from tour, but as of right now, let's just go over the ones that I've got listed. Stuff that I would like to see come over, and this isn't a definitive list, this is just stuff that I've grabbed off the top of my head, mainly, stuff I'd like to see come to this booster pass. So, starting with the SNES game, not necessarily a track, but 2 things I'd like to see is either a Ghost Valley course or a Bowser's Castle course. I think people really overlook the original Bowser's Castle tracks. They're actually quite fun and also quite tough, because they're very much square corners. And the same with Ghost Valley. Like, we've got Boo Lake, which is really cool, but the classic Ghost Valley levels, like Ghost Valley 3, 2, 3, 4, I can't remember. I know there's 4 Bowser's Castles, I'm pretty sure. I think there's 3 or 4 Ghost Valleys. I know some people are going to say, hey, what about more donut plains? I'm cool with that. And we know that Vanilla Lake and Choco Island and stuff and Cooper Beach are in tour, but they're all quite short. And like Ghost Valley and Bowser's Castles, they are short, but they're not as short as like something like Cooper Beach 1 or something. So I would really like to see one of the Ghost Valley tracks, probably Ghost Valley 2 or 3, come back, and then maybe a Bowser's Castle, maybe 3 or 4. You know, some of the harder ones to become brought over. As for N64, I'm not a big fan of the N64 game, but if I had to pick a couple of tracks that I would personally like to see be brought over, Frappy Snowland is one. I know a lot of people really don't like that track, but I have grown quite fond of it. I'd love to see that. DK's Jungle Parkway, I think, is a fun one, and there's a lot of DK levels on this list, actually. And then Banshee Boardwalk, which is just a really solid track. I'd love to see any of those materialise. I don't think the N64, the rest of the tracks that are left, are that interesting, but hey, you know, we'll see what pops up. As for the Game Boy Advanced, for Super Circuit, I actually don't mind what they bring over, because so far I didn't play the game really that much. And so far things like Ribbon Road and Cheeseland were really, really, really good. They're like the high quality remakes. And then here we've had Sky Garden, which is alright, but Snowland and Boo Lake, they were actually really fun. And so whatever they choose to bring over from the Game Boy Advance game, I'm at least excited to see what they do with it. And again, they seem to be giving the Game Boy Advance levels much more of a tweak, whereas the SNES ones are getting like a graphical overhaul, but nothing massive, and I'm totally fine with that. So, as for Double Dash, I think I personally love Mushroom Bridge or Mushroom City, but I don't think these tracks have much of a chance of getting in because we've got so many city tracks already, because of the tour tracks that are based on the real world locations, which kind of sucks, because I think Mushroom Bridge and Mushroom City are much more interesting. They've got great music too, which is partly why I want to see them. DK Mountain is an absolutely incredible level from Double Dash, probably one of the most memorable ones. Would love to see that. And then either Waluigi Stadium or Wario Coliseum, if not both. I think those 2 tracks are some of the most fun tracks in the entire game. Obviously, I will say this now, Rainbow Road from any of the tracks we're missing, like Rainbow Road from Double Dash, absolutely. Rainbow Road from the Game Boy 1, solid, shove it in there. Because we've got the SNES and the N64 one, why not have every Rainbow Road in this game. I would love that. After that, we've got the DS game, so I think pretty straightforward for me. Delfino Square, or Delfino, I think it's Delfino Square is what it's called. Fantastic level, bring that back. DK Pass is like a mountain, snowy mountain level, bring that one back. And Airship Fortress, I think, is also like a very iconic level from that game. Very, very, very good, bring that one back. As for the Wii, we've got DK Summit, which is it's like a skiing level, which I quite like, or like a snowboarding level. Cooper Cape, which I think has a high chance going back, and then Rainbow Road, I think we've just seen it recently being put into Tour. There's other levels from the Wii game that I'd be totally fine with. A lot of people are saying Toad's Factory. I don't really remember the level. It's one of the easiest on the easier sides. At this point, I want to see more of the complex levels, I think, which, you know, maybe Frappy Snowland isn't particularly complex, but yeah, the Wii's got plenty of tracks to grab from. There's stuff on there that I'd like to see. And then for Mario Kart 7, I think the only levels I'm really, like, that I remember that I'd like to see come back are Shy Guy Bazaar, which is apparently quite a popular level. And I've recently replayed some of the tracks in this game, and that was quite fun. And then we've got Woohoo Loop and Woohoo Mountain Loop, or it's called Maku Woohoo, I think, in America. I'd like to see one of those come back. I'm not the biggest fan of those levels, but they'd also be kind of cool to be driving around Woohoo Island again. So, what I've listed there is about 24 tracks anyway. No, it's like 20 tracks or something, so it's obviously not completely complete. But these are just ideas of stuff that I would like to see come to the game. You know, I'm sure I could go and look up the leaks and stuff and look at what's in Tour and kind of make an educated guess as to what's coming. But I don't really... Like, for me, what I want to see from this game is just the fun tracks, and then some of the classic ones, you know, that people really enjoy. I mean, they're obviously all classic, but like SNES and Game Boy games, like they're kind of like the classic ones, and then like, you know, Double Dash, DS, Wii, and 7, like have some of the best, more fun levels from that. And to be fair, the game's already got some absolute cracking levels in it, so we'll see what they do pull out. But overall, I am enjoying the booster pass, but my biggest issue is these Tour tracks are becoming very stale very quickly, and even if they add in Singapore and these others that might visually look different, you've got to think, like, well, we've got Tokyo, Paris, New York, Sydney, London, and Berlin. Like, New York has its own look to it, which is fine. Sydney, London, and Berlin all kind of look similar-ish from a driving standpoint. And Paris, and Tokyo. So the only one that really has the same like vibe to it is New York Minute, because it's like set at night time. All the others, if you're focusing on what you're doing, like yes, they're different tracks, they have different obstacles, but yeah. And as for like the tracks that we're getting that are sort of new tracks that came to Tour, so Ninja Hideaway, Sky High Sunday, Merry Mountains. Ninja Hideaway is a fantastic track. Sky High Sunday, Merry Mountains, they're very, very average to not great, to be honest. So I think they need to like take a step back from those original tracks that they've put in and focus on the classic tracks that people really want to see, and why people bought this in the first place is like, hey, you want to bring back these classic tracks and remaster them and do some fun things with them. I mean, hey, they've been updating some of these tracks like they did with Coconut Mall. Awesome. Like, that track's flipping awesome now. So like, let's just keep going. Let's keep adding those popular tracks, as well as some surprises, and the golden, and keep adding a Game Boy Advance tracks, because they're surprisingly a lot of fun, and because they're completely new to me. So, but yeah, that is my thoughts on where I think the booster pass is. What kind of some ideas of what I would like to see going forward, and you know, my hopes are that we don't get like the Tour tracks maybe slow down. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they obviously have this planned out pretty early on. We're probably going to see at least 6 more Tour tracks, if not more of these like original ones. But hopefully the choices going forward in the last 3 waves will be solid choices, because right now I would say Wave 2 has my favourite tracks. And I think Wave 3 just has a couple of duds. And so does Wave 1. But hey, you know, like I said, it's something for everyone, which is great. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content like this, then hit subscribe. Links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below in the description. And as always, I will see you next video.